Long ago, there was a quest of epic proportions that has never been rivaled, a quest to claim fame, fortune, infamy, and treasure. A sword quest, the sword quest. The game series made by Atari for their iconic game system, the Atari 2600. A normal game on the 2600 would have you essentially play the same thing over and over to achieve the highest score you could muster. The games were extremely primitive by today's standards, but were groundbreaking during the early 80s, and as such, changed the way gaming was viewed in the eyes of many. Enter SwordQuest. A series that prioritized adventure and treasure, but instead of an 8-bit treasure and a high score, the goal was to solve puzzles to hopefully gain real treasure in the form of the game's 4 artifacts coinciding with each game. Never before had a game set out to accomplish something so grand. Never before had a game attempted to become more than just a game. In the SwordQuest series, there were 4 titles following the elements of the Earth. There was Earthworld, Fireworld, Waterworld, and the now elusive Airworld. As we stated, these were more than just games. It was a real adventure. Each title came with a comic book from DC Comics that fleshed out the storyline and lore of the SwordQuest universe, and served as essential to unearthing the artifacts. Regarding the actual lore of SwordQuest, though the graphics were just some squares and stickmen, the story was richer than just playing the games. The story follows twins Terra and Tor, whose parents were slain by the tyrant king Tyrannus, which is just an A+ from the naming department. The twins were shown the prophecy to get revenge on Tyrannus from the wizard Conjuro, who explained the 5 mystical artifacts who would aid them in their journey. Earthworld, the first game in the series. Originally released in 1982, this game was set to kickstart the entire journey of Terra, Tor, and whichever brave gamer decided to undertake the mythical quest. Each room was themed to a zodiac sign, and as you traversed the rooms, you had to place items found throughout the game in a specific order to unlock a clue in the form of a number. The game wasn't all puzzle solving, but required some quick thinking as well, like any adventure would. 4 of these rooms contained action sequences in the form of raft hopping and waterfall dodging. As for the numbered clues, each clue had 2 numbers, which isn't much help to the brave adventurers, but perhaps consulting the comic book is our next step. Our first clue is 16-4. Checking page 16, panel 4, there's a hidden message inscribed on the tower spelling out the word Spire. The puzzle of Earthworld was to find all 10 clues and then create a sentence, and then send that sentence into Atari as fast as possible. The catch was that 5 of these words were just a wild goose chase. There was a way to single out the correct words, however. On the first page of the comic, the words prime and number are highlighted, leading gamers to get rid of any word that didn't have a prime number of letters, eventually leading to the winning sentence being Quest in Tower, Talisman Found. The ones who found this the fastest and sent it to Atari were then invited to play a modified version of the game at Atari headquarters under a 90-minute time limit. Whoever completed the challenge first was awarded the actual talisman, the Talisman of Penultimate Truth, an 18-karat gold disc studded with 12 diamonds and the birthstones of the 12 zodiac signs, with a white gold sword mounted on the front of the medallion. The lucky and skilled warrior who was awarded this incredible prize was Steve Bell, the man pictured here who honestly looks less of a winner and more like he's being sacrificed by Atari. Regardless, this precious artifact was in the hands of Bell, thus ending the tale of Earthworld. Fireworld, the second game in the series, released in 1983. To be blunt, Fireworld was a bit of a disaster, focusing more on action and less on the puzzle solving that made Earthworld fun and challenging. Similar to how the zodiac signs were used in the previous game, Fireworld used the Tree of Life as inspiration for its many rooms. The puzzles in this were still directly connected to the comic book, but were a lot easier to figure out than they were in the previous entry. Using the same method as before, seeking out 10 words and making a sentence using the correct 5 words. The winning sentence this time was, "Leads to Chalice, Power Abound." The way gamers sifted through the duds was, once again, by consulting the comics. On the first page of the comic, the word 7 was in a different font, meaning to only use words from comic page numbers that added up to 7. Due to its simple nature, there were more winners than Atari had anticipated. Due to this, Atari hosted a second round, and this second challenge was terrifyingly complex and left many gamers scrambling for words. Only 50 people survived. The challenge was to send a letter to Atari and to explain what gamers liked about Fireworld. Yes, seriously, the biggest video game company needed an ego boost so bad, they sent out their fans to rave about this mythical game which ended up falling short of expectations, and honestly just kinda sucked. Alas, the 50 people were chosen and again ventured to Atari headquarters to fight for the enchanting Chalice of Light. The competition was fierce, but the mighty gladiator Michael Rideout ended up bringing home the gold. The Chalice of Light, a cup made of gold and platinum, studded with diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and pearls. With the Chalice finding a home with Rideout, the tale of Fireworld was over. Waterworld. The third game in the series released in 1983, a few months into the video game crash led by Atari themselves. Due to the market being in shambles and Atari switching leadership from Ray Kassar to James J. Morgan, this game was not even properly released, only available to Atari Club members who could mail away for the game. Morgan was cutting Atari's losses and with that cancelled the contest. The rooms in Waterworld were themed to the 7 spiritual chakras, where players would go through a measly 8 rooms to attempt to unearth the clues and turn in the phrase, "Hasten towards revealed crown." Everyone who entered correctly was given a prize of $2,000 as a sort of, sorry we destroyed your dreams and cancelled the contest. The artifact that was now out of gamers' hands is my personal favorite, the Crown of Life, made of gold and encrusted with diamonds, rubies, sapphires, green tourmalines, and aquamarines. Soon after Morgan took over and the contest was cancelled, Jack Tramiel, owner of Commodore, bought Atari Inc. and turned the company around, forming the Atari Corporation. Airworld, the 4th game in the series, was never released. With the downfall of the contest and Atari under new management, the final adventure was cancelled and never made it to store shelves, thus abruptly ending the tale of SwordQuest before it could become a true epic. The rooms were based around the Chinese I Ching, and would feature a whopping 64 rooms. The game made it to only 20% progress before it was cancelled, and for the fate of the comic book, it never even reached the writing stage. The award for completing Airworld was the Philosopher's Stone, a large piece of white jade encased in an 18-karat gold box featuring emeralds, rubies, diamonds, and citrines, though of course, with no game and no contest, this artifact was never given out either. With the cancellation of Airworld, this is where the story starts to take a turn. For the game itself, many people wonder if somewhere out there it truly does exist. Prototypes have surfaced in the past, but have all been proven to be hoaxes. Again, the developers of the game have confirmed it wasn't even 20% completed, so any prototype claiming to be the entire game is just all dead wrong. Overall, there's a certain profound sadness of Airworld's misfortunes and SwordQuest's contest as a whole that leaves you wondering. At the end of the day, this story was never finished, and the remaining treasures were never given out to their rightful owners. And all of this brings me to the biggest mystery of all. What happened to the Crown of Life, the Philosopher's Stone, and most of all, the final prize? A prize that would gather the 4 champions of the elements to compete one last time to proclaim victory, and earn the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery, the titular sword of SwordQuest, the main MacGuffin in the lore, and the prize to outprize them all. As a quick rewind, I want to talk about the fate of the prizes that did end up in the hands of champions, as even these prizes seem to have an aura of mystery and questions surrounding them today. The first was, of course, the Talisman of Penultimate Truth, won by Stephen Bell. It is unclear as to what really happened to it, but upon receiving the prize he did mention melting it down and selling the gold to buy a car, which Chalice of Light recipient Michael Rideout has since agreed that yes, he did indeed melt it down, and left the little sword on the face of the talisman untouched. As for the aforementioned Rideout, he still holds the chalice and has exclaimed he would turn it into a family heirloom and pass it down through the ages. For the 3 artifacts that were left after the contest was shut down, We can only speculate their true fates. The company that made the prizes was Franklin Mint. Atari commissioned them to make some of the most glorious prizes known to man. After the contest had ended, many thought that Franklin had simply just taken the artifacts back, until lead designer of SwordQuest Todd Fry claimed to have seen the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery above Atari CEO Jack Tramiel's mantelpiece, and if he had the sword, it's reasonable to assume the rest of the treasure lie with him. Kurt Vendel, an Atari and video game historian, begs to differ. He points out that Atari really never owned the prizes anyway, they were just essentially promoting them. Warner Communications was the true owner of the prizes, and they were kept with the creators over at Franklin Mint. Vendel claims to have gotten insider information from an ex-employee of Warner Communications, claiming, "Once Atari was sold, those prizes languished at Franklin Mint. At some point, Franklin Mint disposed of them. They were not retained, because why would they retain the prizes? It's a lot easier just to smelt it back down and turn them into gold coins or other things that they could sell." It is unclear as to whether or not this is entirely true and nearly impossible to prove, but before we set anything in stone, I would like to get to the bottom of Tramiel's stolen treasure. Vendel has an answer for this too, as he claims that yes, an Atari employee did see a sword at Mr. Tramiel's house, but it supposedly wasn't the sword. It was one of the Tramiel family heirlooms passed down generation to generation. Unfortunately, whether or not this is true is also impossible to prove. It's hard to distinguish the validity of Vendel's claims, but it's been 40 years of rumors and myth. He could possibly be telling the truth to all the gamers that ever put a SwordQuest game into their Atari 2600 console with the hopes of becoming a legend. The quest is over. It seems Tyrannus won. Regardless of where exactly the artifacts ended up, they don't belong there. They belong in the hands of the champions of the elements, the 4 brave warriors that would have brought peace and tranquility to these lands, and the one to wield the Sword of Ultimate Sorcery to unite them. A contest of this magnitude is unheard of today, but maybe it shouldn't be. Gaming was originally all about fantasy and playing things that could not technically occur in real life, but this contest was set to have real stakes, and possibly bring the world of fantasy into our real world. As each day passes, it feels like this concept is more and more needed. In participating in this legendary quest, all that mattered was what was ahead of you, that being competitors, and an artifact to win, all in good but grand fun. For just a small bit of time, the stresses of the real world could go away, and you could just be a kid again. After all, what was cooler to you as a kid than going on a legendary quest and coming back home with a mythical artifact? Maybe this quest could have shown us that not all of your youth truly has to go away when we grow up. All in all, it's time to bring back the magic to gaming, to inspire hope in these dark times, and to have a king prevail. Alas, the kingdom of nerdom depends on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. If you do like the channel, make sure to check out our social medias in the description below. Make sure to stop by our Discord. It is the best place to chat with us and hang out with other people. Of course, if you'd like to support the channel, please head over to our Patreon Debunk Plus. Only $1 a month, and you guys get access to videos early, script PDFs, whatever random stuff we decide to put up, and more. As always, my name is Sep from Debunk File. See you guys next time. Bye.